You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 70, your Deep Purple Collections. And coming to you from the messiest house in the Chicagoland area, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the outskirts of Providence, Rhode Island, your co-host, John Patuxent Village Matola.
You know, there's only 39 cities and towns in Rhode Island, so you're going to run out of them eventually.
Oh, boy, yeah, but this is the kind of the funniest, one of the funniest names I've thought.
Patuxent Village. We talked about roads on the Patuxent in a recent episode, I think. What's the deal?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
What's the deal with Patuxent Village?
It lays claim to being New England's oldest village.
Okay. Okay.
That's it.
Are there any other? When was it established? How old? It's got to be the 1600s, right?
1642.
Wow, that's pretty good. It's like they landed at Plymouth Rock in 1620, so it's pretty original.
Yes, it is, and that's in Warwick, which is another Warwick fact. I don't know why there's so much. The last week's was in Warwick too, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where it's happening, you know.
Yeah, yes, I've been spending more time there than I care to, because it's not really my favorite place in Rhode Island, but I have friends there.
Oh, that's good.
So there I am.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm coming to you from the messiest house in the Chicagoland area because
yeah. What's the deal with that? I'm guessing it has to do with the kids.
Well, of course. Because my kids basically haven't left the house since the middle of March. Their last day of school, I think, was like March 16th or something. And they're just home every day, all day. You know, they go out, you know, for little bike rides or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'd have a day off, like a Wednesday or a Thursday here and there. And I would just spend my whole day cleaning the house and putting everything away and getting it back to where it needed to be. And there isn't a time to do that. If they're here and I'm cleaning, they are literally, it's 3 against 1. They're messing it up faster than I can clean it. It's a losing proposition. It's dirty, it's messy, and it's making my skin crawl. I just want to ship them all off to a camp for like 2 or 3 days and clean the house from top to bottom.
So now, does this extend to your area right now where you're at? Like, do they come down into the Deep Purple cave there? Or?
They do. They're pretty good in here. This is probably the most organized and cleanest area of the house, almost certainly, because they know they're not really allowed in here. Every so often my son will text me, "Can I play your guitar?" or something like that. But literally I walk in here and I can see the headphones are like 3 inches over, and I know that they were in here. Like, it's like they're so bad at covering their tracks. It's usually worse than that, though. They'll just be like stuff everywhere, and I'm like, oh, clearly they were playing in here. But
yeah, that's funny. Kids are like, you know, the biggest and yet the worst criminals around. They're just like worst at covering up their tracks.
Yeah, they'll like take like a candy or something and then eat it and then leave the wrapper like out, like right where they ate it. And you're just like, and you look at them and you're like, "Did you eat some candy?" And they're like, "How did he know?" Like, you see it in their eyes, like, he must be psychic. They can't even figure out how I could have possibly put it together.
No, I just watched you do it. I mean,
yeah, I don't need to watch them. I see the remnants.
After aforementioned friends that I was hanging out with in Warwick, have a 10-year-old son, and he is just he's hysterical, but he's like exactly like that. He'll just like literally do something, and his mother will yell at him. He's like, "But I didn't do it," and I'm like, "Dude, I just saw you do it." He like did it right in front of all of us. Like, "I didn't leave that water bottle there." And it's like, you just drank out of it and just like threw it on the floor. And then like, what do you think? That we're all blind?
Well, throwing it on the floor would imply some level of thought and effort. This is just like, it's kind of like our friend Paul used to do. I don't know if you remember, like he would like we'd have like a box of Swiss cake rolls, and he would just like open the package and eat the Swiss cake rolls, and the wrapper like would just fall down to the ground from where he was just eating it like as an afterthought, because he had already forgotten about it. It was just falling to the ground, out of mind. He didn't actually pick it up and then throw it in the corner. That would be like too there would be too much intent involved. And that's the same way they do. They're just, I'm eating the snack bar, boop, 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 up, I'm done eating. The wrapper falls to the floor, and I'm on with my day. I'm about my business.
Carelessness, yeah.
Yep, exactly. Although Paul was a teenager when he was doing that, so that's a different story. So anyway, if you want to keep up to date on all of this very relevant Deep Purple information, please subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts. All of our information's on deeppurplepodcast.com, or on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all of that nonsense. And if you want to support the show, you can become a patron on Patreon or PayPal. Hello. And to help new people discover the show, why don't you leave us a rating in Apple Podcasts? So, speaking of our patrons, coming in at the $25 Super Trooper tier, Steve Seaborg of NameOnAnything.com and AllTheWorldSAstage.net, coming to us via PayPal. At the $20 Shades of Deep Pockets tier, Ryan M. At the $15 Highball Shooter tier, it is vacant. It has been vacated. There is no one there. At the Turn It Up to $11 tier, Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg. At the $10 Someone Came tier, we've got Richard Fusey.
Hey!
At the $5 Moneylender tier, Clay Wambacher, Greg Sealby, Frank Thielgard Mortensen, Mike Knowles, and John Convery. At the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, Peter Gardeau, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, and Anton Glaving. And at the $1 made-up name tier, Els Murders, Spacey Noodles, The Horrendous Leaky Mausoleum, and of course, Michael Veda. I wonder if anyone's going to come in at the made-up name tier. We haven't had a new made-up name in a while.
Well, I mean, I like that somebody came to the No One Came tier.
Yeah.
Well, now it's a Someone Came.
So Someone Came tier is good, and, you know, we got all
That's
that.
awesome.
Well, I'm wondering if we're ever going to get another made-up name. It's starting to keep me up at night. Thanks to our brothers.
I might have to start donating so we can make one up.
You should. It's cheap enough, you know, and the money comes right back to you with the PayPal takes their cut or whatever. I don't know what their cut is, but yeah, you know, it's like, you know, you spend 30 cents a month to have a made up name or whatever it is. Who knows? Thanks to our brothers at the Deep Dive Podcast Network, Riot Sabbath Bloody Podcast, The Simple Man at Skinner Reconsidered, and Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Klutz. And did I say Klutz? I meant Klutz. Prime Klutz. I don't think he's a Klutz. I think Terry T-Bone seems quite poised to me. I don't think he's a klutz. And the patron saint and archivist of the Deep Purple Podcast, Jorg Planer. Thank you so much for all of your help and support. And hey, we've got a new review on Apple Podcasts.
Hey-o!
This one comes to us from Bono's Ego. I like that. 5 stars. Love it is the title. Deep Purple Podcast, a perfectly cromulent podcast. Ha ha! Love what you guys do, and I look forward to every show.
I like that. I feel like he's a Simpsons fan.
Oh, could be. Maybe he's heard your endless Simpsons references.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's a perfectly cromulent podcast. Yes. Haha, makes me think that he's referring to the Jebediah Springfield episode where he makes up he coins the word imbiggins.
Imbiggins.
They're just like, I've never heard the word. I've lived here my whole life, and I've never heard anybody else use the word imbiggins. And they're just like, oh, come on, it's a perfectly cromulent word. And I mean, when we were younger, I just like, I used to laugh because I'm like, that's probably a made up word too, which I never fact checked.
I did. Cromulent. So cromulent, it's an adjective, and it says humorous. So it's like a humorous adjective. It means acceptable or adequate. And then the sentence they use is, the continental breakfast was perfectly cromulent. Let's start using that one.
I'd say that describes us. We're adequate.
Yeah, we're almost there.
I'd say there's like, you know, maybe a couple of episodes I would say exceptional.
We're
I
we're
laughed.
proto-cromulent. Well, Bono's, I love the name Bono's Ego too, which is great.
Yeah.
I think Bono's Ego would be a great $1 tier name. Or if you could come up with a different one, we've got a $1, $3. You could make a $2 tier. We could call it the cromulent tier. You know, hey, I'm just throwing out some ideas there. But we really appreciate the review. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bono.
Sounds like a wow, it just sounds like a truck just drove by in your room. Is your fan an oscillating fan?
It is not.
Oh, okay.
Could have been.
It just came by for a second, so maybe it was.
It could have been the tail end of the burp that I just like foot switched out.
No, this is not a burp. It sounded like a truck driving by.
No, everything's fine over here.
All right. Well, hey, before we move on, we do have a sponsor this week, and I'd be remiss if I did not thank our sponsor for their support of the show. And our sponsor is Gator. There you go. I was kind of getting into that.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking JLT's got the voice for that song for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's like totally his wheelhouse. I love it.
I have no idea. That's another one where I'm kind of at the almost at the end of my barrel here of JLT clips, and I don't know. It just says this one is just called JLT Gator.
Well, if there's a full version of that, I'd listen to it.
I'm sure there was probably something visual to go with that maybe was either humorous or maybe at least just explaining what the hell the ad was for, because the audio does not explain it at all. It's a 30-second clip of Love Hurts.
Well, if anybody knows what that is, let us know.
And I did promise our friends at the Tommy Bolin Memorial that I would wear their shirt today, the Tommy Bolin Ultimate shirt.
Look at that.
The Tommy Bolin Memorial statue. So I would highly recommend. I'll put a link in the show notes. Let me type that in right now so I don't forget. But check out the GoFundMe for the Tommy Bolin statue. They're looking to raise money to get a statue to commemorate Tommy Bolin's greatness. I believe it's in Sioux City. So yeah, check it out. We want to support them and support the statue. And if they do make the statue, maybe we can take a road trip there and go check it out sometime. It's not too far from here.
Oh, I'd do it.
Let's do it. And we could do like an on the road buddy comedy episode where you fly here and then we drive to Sioux City to see the unveiling of the statue.
Yeah, I'll wear my crushed velvet pants and pink feathers in my hair. And
don't raise money too quickly, because I don't know if we'll be able to do this in the current state of the world. But
I also have to point out I don't actually own those things. So
you don't have a crushed velvet shirt?
Oh, well, I mean, maybe like 20 or 30 years ago I did, but.
Did you really?
I mean, at that point I was shopping at like thrift stores and Salvation Army, because in the 90s I wanted to be 70s.
Yeah,
so
you used to do a bit of that. Yeah.
You remember that, right?
Yeah.
You used to have these like god-awful polyester shirts.
There's the obligatory like retro phase that every teen must go through.
Yeah, I remember there were two of them that I really liked, and there were probably pictures of them. If I can find them somewhere, I'll dig them out. But there was one that was like this kind of like rust burnt orange one with like a pattern on it, and like of course they had like the big, collars. Mm-hmm. And the other one was like this blue, and from what I can remember, I don't know if it had a floral pattern and like a cloud pattern on it, but it was like this kind of like different shades of blue and white and everything. And those were like my two main ones. I wasn't confident enough to unbutton them down to the navel or anything. So I was just,
You're not John Lord.
They wouldn't allow me to at school anyways, because it was a private school. So I'm surprised they even let me wear that stuff. So
Yeah, that probably would have been frowned upon by the brothers.
Hmm. Yeah, so a surprise, it was Catholic school. Um, but anyway,
So why are we here today? Well, we are
I don't
here.
know. I don't
Hi,
know.
why are we doing this?
I
Well,
don't know. No, I know.
I think I know. A few episodes ago, we showed you our Deep Purple collections, and as we stated on the episode, nothing of particularly great value, but just kind of sentimental value to us, and kind of the stories behind the pieces that were really, really interesting to us. So we went through that and had a lot of fun. Today, well, I should back it up. For that episode, I had put it out there on social media. Hey, what do you guys have that's cool memorabilia-wise? And then got flooded with a huge amount of things that our listeners and folks on Twitter and Facebook and every other thing sent in. We're at that point now where if I ask for submissions for a show, it's almost too much for a show. So I almost have to like maybe not ask as much, or ask like in the middle of the night when nobody's paying attention. Or, but it's great. It's great that we have so many people actually checking us out. So. So the initial idea was, we'll talk about our collections, and then at the end of the episode we'll show our few listener submissions, and then I got like 1 million submissions that were all really good. So figured do it in a separate episode for a few reasons. One is these things are way better than our stuff. These some great stories, some great memorabilia that puts our collections to shame, even though they mean a lot to us. There's some pretty great stuff. So
I was looking at it for like, first of all, like I told you, it took me like a week and a half to clean all that crap off of my floor in this office. Like I kept like walking around it until I'm like, maybe I should just put it away. But yeah, I was just kind of looking at it being like, look at this stuff. It's like, it's not even that impressive, but I'm hoping that it will be, because I mean, I got to have a lot of good memories. Like, I remember getting that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or popping that in the cassette player or whatever. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this, because I feel like, so many people from so many different places, we've got to have a lot of cool stuff.
Oh, for sure. All right.
I love seeing other people's stuff. So,
of course, I'm having trouble. I'm on the first one, and I'm already having trouble finding it. So let me see if I can.
Great.
Off to a great start. I'll skip over that one.
The quality content that you get here on the Deep Purple podcast.
Exactly. It's second to none. Where the hell is it?
The high production values, the preparation.
I think I know what happened. It's got to be these. Okay. So let me just download these, get these ready. And so the first one that we can go over here is, let's open this up. Sorry. Maybe I'll edit this out. I probably won't edit it out on the YouTube, because only 3 people listen on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, you're getting bonus content. This is some bonus content right here. For
Nate fumbling around.
Me fumbling around trying to download this. 8 seconds left. Why is it taking so long to download this file?
8 seconds. What is this, like the 90s?
I know, right? my 64 baud modem or whatever. Is this it?
I'm going to download one song. I'm going to walk away and come back later today and hope that it's gotten half done.
All right. Okay, here we are. So the first submission of many comes to us from Gary Harvey on Twitter. And take a look at this beauty right here. So this is a European tour jacket that Ian Paice gave to Gary Harvey in 1993. Wow. So he said, "This is the perfect stranger jacket that Ian Paice gave me back in 1993. Went to a family birthday party and he sent me back home with this."
Damn.
Not too shabby, right? Says,
what's going on with the right arm there? It looks like it's stretched out.
Maybe it's like the Back to the Future jacket?
I don't know, but that's regardless, that's really great condition too.
Oh yeah, it looks awesome.
Like the Perfect Strangers logo on it.
Yeah, the Perfect Strangers logo, and it looks like it's embroidered where it says Perfect Strangers, and it says Deep Purple at the top, European Tour 1985.
Yeah, it looks embroidered, which you don't You don't see stuff with that kind of quality anymore.
Oh yeah, that's not an inexpensive jacket. Not to mention the
No.
fact that it was personally given to him by Ian Paice. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's got a cool memory attached to it, I'm sure.
So then we've got Sean McGuire writes in and says he sends this picture, which is a picture of an Ian Paice drum clinic, the Australian Masterclass Tour, Ian Paice from Deep Purple, Drummer's Workshop. Sean says, the best musical experience of my life was sitting 10 meters from Ian doing a drum workshop. He played the intro to Fireball and the room shook. It was so surreal. I got to meet him after, and you wouldn't meet a nicer bloke. So humble and gracious. This is the poster he signed.
Wow. So when did he do a drum clinic? It looks like it must have been reasonably recent.
Yeah, it looks like probably it had to have been like maybe within the last 10 years or so. I don't think he said a specific date that it happened.
Still, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, very nice. Jose La Madrid on Twitter wrote a really long, I'm sorry, this was on Facebook. He linked to a Facebook story that he had told, and it's all in Spanish. So I will spare everyone by not reading that. I did do a translation, and let's see if I can find his collection here from Jose La Madrid. Where is it? But Jose La Madrid, he has basically this huge collection of Deep Purple live stuff. So all of this live material that Deep Purple had done, and he kind of posted a cool picture of it, which you can see right here. So it's a picture of all of his live material from the band. It's a little bit of a blurry picture. But the rough translation is, yes, you counted them well. 26, like 26 souls. Yes, all of Deep Purple. Yes, all live. So he's talking about just all of the different live things he's collected from the band over the years. So you can see Deep Purple in concert. You can see Nobody's Perfect.
See a
Graz,
couple of my faves in there. Nice.
Made in Japan. So pretty good stuff. Thank you, Jose, for sending that in.
Yeah, so a couple of my faves in there.
This is Marcello, probably it must be Marcello. Marcello sends this, which he sends actually quite a few stuff. So one is this pick from Roger Glover, signed by, I'm sure it's just imprinted on the pick that it signed. Then
that's a Roger Glover pick. That's
a Roger Glover pick. Where is it? Okay, so that's a Roger Glover pick, and then here's trying to match this up with all the stories that he sent in. So this is Porto Alegre. I guess that's the city where he lives in, from 1992. He got this written to him. I guess that's an autograph from John Lord. So he had done, I'll put a link in the show notes, but he had done an interview on TV with John Lord. And after the interview, he had John Lord sign the back of his notes. It says to Marcello, with best wishes and thanks, John Lord.
Wow.
And he says, it's a DVD with my botched recording moments in an interview I did with John Lord for MTV Brazil in 2009. He also signed my list of questions. At 13:57, my attempts at recording my opening and closing remarks for the interview. The great part of it is we can listen to some of the rehearsal. That was the first time when John played Soldier of Fortune in his concerto tour. At 17:02, I began singing along before recording my remarks. John let me stay to watch the rehearsal, and I ended up going back to a rock store gallery nearby with Steve Balsamo and Cassie Alaska to buy baby clothes with a Deep Purple logo for John's recently born grandson. They just sell baby clothes with a Deep Purple logo in Brazil. I don't think you'd find that at Bye Bye Baby here.
Nope. Carter's.
Carter's, yes.
Baby Gap, you know.
I'm going to try going in one of those and put my mask on, go in. I was like, I'm looking for a baby onesie that's got the Deep Purple Perfect Strangers logo on it. What aisle are those in?
It'll be like Aisle 1985.
Aisle 19, never. So pretty cool. He also sent in.
That's a great story.
So this is a napkin, obviously, that he wrote on. So where's this one? So this is a napkin from the pub where Deep Purple drank themselves under the table before recording Black Knight. I wrote the lyrics to the song on it after the third pint 10 years ago. So he says, it was about 3 p.m. so I could have a drink. After my first pint, I talked to the oldest waiter there and asked him if he was present that night. It was a long shot, of course, and he wasn't there in 1970 anyway, but he worked there in the early 80s when Gillan owned the studio. So I turned the camera on, and he regaled me with some tales about how musicians drank there and how they went back to the studio on Kingsway. The pub is, in fact, located on the antipod of the block in relation to the drugstore front, but he assured me there was an entrance on Newton Street through the parking lot. Then he poured me a light and bitter beer, and he said Gillan liked, and he said, that man is a solid beer drinker. I bet he was. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a great story.
And then he's got Ian Gillan, this Ian Gillan poster, when Ian Gillan was playing with a cat lying on it.
And the other cat is just like walking by, getting ready.
I don't want to bury the lead. The cat is, it looks like the poster's made of catnip. The cat's just all like lounging all around it.
Like, well, catnip was like, really cheap back then. So we printed on catnip.
Exactly.
That's great.
Let's see what else we got. Here's Deep Purple Tour of Brazil 1991 for the Slaves and Masters tour poster that he had. And are there any others? This is the pub. So this is like right around the corner from Kingsway where Gillan owned the studio.
Oh, that's great.
And that's the inside. Really nice looking place.
Wow. I'd drink there.
Why not, right? So some pretty cool stuff from Marcello, whose name I hope I am pronouncing correctly. Thank you so much for sending that in. M. Henry on Twitter sends in a familiar site, which is the album Machine Head. But what makes this interesting, he says, this is my copy of Machine Head, purchased in Geneva in 1973. Our high school band went to Switzerland that summer. Waited all year to buy it until I was in Switzerland. Didn't stop in Montreux, so I bought it in Geneva. Best souvenir of all time. That's pretty cool. Purchased on the Lake Geneva shoreline, potentially.
Back in the day.
It's pretty good shape. Little Purple Records logo. Not too shabby. Peter on Instagram has speaking of jackets. So this is someone that we follow or followed by on Instagram as well, posing by his Deep Purple records, holding up his Rainbow Live in Germany record. And what's really interesting is the jacket that he's wearing. If you zoom in closer, boop, it's autographed by Richie Blackmore.
Hey-o.
Now, this isn't a Deep Purple jacket. It's just a leather jacket, and it's autographed by Richie. And he says, Richie autographed the leather jacket in 1990 or from 1996. It was before the show. I watched him play football pre-show. After the game, he exited the pitch on the opposite side, and I walked towards him. I asked him if I could have his autographed, and he said, no problems. He told me he couldn't stop and chat because he wanted to avoid the crowd that was walking towards him. So me and my mate was the only one getting things signed that day. Short meeting, but he was kind and friendly.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a Deep Purple jacket, No.
Sign it. I'd take anything Richie wanted to sign. And more than, like we talked about before, we're not like huge collectors. I'm not going to be going on eBay looking for a mint condition this signed by all the members, those things are available. You can buy them. But
I don't know.
The stories are what's really impressive. To just be like, oh yeah, I went on eBay and I bought. Like, oh, what's the story behind that record on a copy of Machine Head on your wall that all the band members signed? Oh, I went on eBay and I bought it for $1,000. Oh, okay.
So what is your take? Like, I mean, you probably just said it, but I mean, how do you feel about that kind of stuff personally. I mean, I don't have anything against anybody that would want to
Oh
buy
no.
something autographed or whatever. But for me, like the stuff that I have, which I don't have a lot, but it's like, it like collecting autographs to me is like collecting a memory. Like when I look
Mhm.
at the stuff that I have, like a handful of stuff autographed by Kiss and like Kiss adjacent people mostly. It's all stuff that I got signed myself. So it's like, number one, I know that it's authentic. Like I don't need like a certificate of authenticity type of thing. And it's just a cool thing because somebody, I don't know, just comes in here and looks at it and they're like, whoa, that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, like Ace signed that back in, whatever, like I got a story to go with it.
Yeah.
That's how I like to get autographed pieces, and it doesn't have to be somebody particularly famous too. I mean, I've had people that I just think are really cool that
Mhm.
maybe the whole world doesn't know, but it doesn't matter, it's still cool to me.
I mean, I have the only autograph I have by any of them is the Glenn Hughes autographed Burn, which I did order online. Glenn actually mentioned it on, I don't know, Twitter or Facebook or Instagram
Yeah.
somewhere. He's like, "Oh, I signed these records if you want to buy one." So I was like, "Oh, cool, I'll go buy one." It wasn't expensive, and I bought it. And then he like, we had like a little bit of a I was like, I posted that I had it, and he responded or something. So, like, that's my certificate of authenticity, is that he promoted it, and then when I posted a picture of it, he liked it. It wasn't like, "Hey, that's not my signature." That's kind of what I was afraid of. "Hey, that's a
Yeah.
forgery." I'm like, "You promoted this."
Well,
But
that's the next best thing right now to getting like I'm walking. I mean, I would still like to, walk up to him and like
oh
I was
yeah,
like ready like on his last tour to pay for the meet and greet.
yeah,
Um, that we like I had asked you to go to one. You remember it was like
yeah. I
I
mean, that
think
was
it was
kind of
like a small club in New York or something, and I'm like, you know what? The show and the meet and greet aren't that like
yeah.
outrageous. Like I would love to,
And like
pay to meet him.
that was kind of like the genesis of the show, was us talking about, "Hey, we should meet up in New York and go see Glenn." And it didn't work out because it was like right before my daughter's birthday, and we just
Right.
kind of we didn't do it. And then we started talking about Deep Purple a little more, and then this kind of happened. But God, man, with everything that's happened in the past few months, I mean,
Hmm.
hindsight's always 2020. But wow, what a missed opportunity that was. And when he was playing a few days later, actually in a few towns over from here, and I remember we talked, "Well, man, why don't you come over here and we'll watch that?" And we didn't do that either. And I'm just like, damn it, like what? Who knows if I'll ever get an opportunity to see Glenn Hughes play those songs again?
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, I'm just lucky that I got to see him when I did, which is why I went to see him again. But
mhm.
I would say it's a missed opportunity that I didn't go for like a meet and greet package, an
Yeah,
autograph or something like that. That would have been really cool.
yeah, and
But
I
I
I tried to with Deep
would.
Purple and failed. um,
Well, we all know that story.
yeah, but yeah, as my feeling right now, I mean, if somebody wanted to give me a copy of Machine Head or whatever album with all the band members signing it, I would be over the moon to own such a thing. But it's not like something I search out or seek out and like, "Oh, I need to have this for my collection and I'm going to pay like $1 million to have it." Like, to your point, it's more about the story. Like, I was going to take my raggedy ass copy of Butterfly Ball and have Roger sign it just because that's my copy of Butterfly Ball. It's not in mint
Mhm.
condition. It doesn't, but it's just important to me. And just like, the CD of Butterfly Ball that we talked about, I think on the last episode we did like this, that's important to me just because of the story behind my parents going there and me sending them to stores to find it. And they brought it back, and how it was the first time I actually had a decent copy of the album. And that's more important to me than having something that's like a mint condition and shrink wrap that I'm never going to look at or whatever.
I mean, I would think the only thing that I would take exception to is like maybe musicians that are no longer with us. Like if I
Oh,
saw
sure.
a copy of like the Tommy Bolin box set on eBay or something, it was autographed by him. Obviously, you can't get any merchandise
Well, the
autographed by
Tommy
him
Bolin
now.
box set autographed by Tommy Bolin, I'm going to have to say, is probably not authentic. Came out in 1989. I'll
All
be
right,
like,
something else.
I need to see the certificate of authenticity on that. But like, if I could find
But
a,
like if there was a copy of Teaser or
oh yeah,
something like that, or maybe like a copy of like a Zephyr album or something like really early. Let's like
or Come
let's say
Taste the
that.
Band with all the original signatures on
Mhm.
it. I mean, those have got to be out there, but I'm sure they're in short supply. That'd be,
Or
honestly,
if there
that
was,
remember that one that was floating around a while ago, which we still don't know if it's like real or not, but it's Come Taste the
yeah.
Band, but Ian Gillan signed it. I would love that. That's just funny because I mean, it's because it could be totally possible somebody brought that and Gillan was just like, whatever, just signed it. I mean, that'd be
Yeah.
great. I would love to hang that up. I mean, it's like, and of course, because I would hang it up, and it would have to be like I have to wait till John comes over for anyone to get this, why this is interesting or funny. Anybody else will look at it and go, oh, okay.
Yeah, whatever. It's autographed. The other thing I guess would be like if there was a Come Taste the Band where he just signed it, and then somehow somebody was willing to part with that, and then to go around and try and collect the other surviving members' signatures on it. That would be cool as well. But then at that point, like John Lord would have to sign it too. So you'd have to find the one album that John Lord and Tommy Bolin signed, and then figure out how to get, track down all the other guys.
Right. Yeah.
That would be very, very ambitious. But I am not that ambitious. So there was I have to digress because like there's this thing about like people signing records that like they weren't on, and I went to I think it was whenever it was, I think it was last like May, June, like last year. And it was Ace Frehley's band from the 80s got together, Return of the Comet.
Is that the one
because
he submitted the video from? Is that the one with the video of him yelling at the sound guy?
No, that was in an expo.
Oh,
he did play with those guys, but they played without him as Return of the Comet. Like they went and they did like a small tour and stuff. Okay. That was like a year before that other thing happened. And so I went because it was in Foxborough, it was really close. And so I went and it was like, all the guys in it I thought were like super cool. And they did a free like meet and greet and like autograph thing afterwards, which is cool because bands don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it wasn't like these guys just came, like, I mean, they're all veterans, they're all, been around for a while. So they were all like super nice and everything. And then there was one guy, Richie Scarlett, who I always liked. And he was like Ace's like second guitar player for like a while. And he's just like this grizzled rock veteran. He's got this really raspy voice and he's wearing sunglasses and he seemed to be in a mood. And so it was just like, so somebody put down, he wasn't on the first two Ace albums. He was in his early band and then he wasn't, and then he was on the third album. So somebody put down one of the albums that he wasn't on. And so the first couple of guys signed it and I guess they passed it over to him. And he looked at it, he goes, I wasn't on this. I'm not fucking signing this. And then he swatted it off the table. And I started cracking up.
So you gotta break somebody's merchandise.
I mean, he didn't like violently swat him. He's I'm not fucking signing this, and he's like, and it was like, but it's like, and I'm like, I'm wondering if the poor guy, that even wanted it signed, like even meant for it to get
right.
To him,
it was just like the first couple of guys. They passed it down. It wasn't my fault.
And he was just so grumpy. He's just like, I'm not signing this. He could have just been like, oh, I wasn't on this. Here, you sign or something. I don't know, but it was like, just people, I don't know, people just signing things. Like I've heard things about like podcasters, like signing like bands' albums and like other fans getting really mad about it and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know, who cares? You know what I mean? It's just like, you could have me sign a Deep Purple album for crying out loud.
That thought has never crossed my mind. That would be if somebody was like, well, not that anyone would meet us anyway, because how the hell would you, especially now? But if somebody came to me like a copy of Burn, sign this, I'm like, what? Why? Why would you want me to do that? The value of this is instantly going to go down if I sign it. Like, I guess they're just like I'm just defacing this album. I'm not.
Like there are some fans of podcasts out there. Like it's I mean, spoiler alert, Kiss podcast, where they'll be like bring them to like Kiss expos and like their favorite podcasters there and like sign this copy of Lick It Up.
I don't think I would do it because like imagine if that got out there. Oh, here's a copy of whatever Stormbringers signed by Nate and John. People would be like, who are these assholes getting off signing Deep Purple albums for people? What is wrong with these people?
The trash. I
feel like it would give us like a bad reputation. Like, you know what? You can print out our episode art and I will sign that. Not that anybody wants our signature anyway, but
I would easily like I would easily like take a signed copy of like your art for like our first Christmas episode. That's still my favorite art that you've ever
Is that what you want
done.
for, is that what you want for Christmas? You want me to sign that for you and send?
Yes, I would happily frame that. And
Will
put
you
it up
sign
in
one
my,
and send it to me too? And then that would be our Christmas exchange. That's signed by my co-host. It'd be funny to have like
Pretty
a
cool,
signature
huh?
of someone that you like know. I should ask Scott for, from Badfish, like, Scott, could you send me well, I used to do that, like whenever we'd hang out, like I'd take a picture of us like sitting on his couch or whatever, and I'd be like taking a picture like I'm like with my arm around him, like a selfie, like it's like, because I was like, hey, look, I'm hanging out with Scott from Badfish. And the funny thing is, I'd post it on Instagram and people will be like, you know Badfish? How did you meet him? Was he cool? I'm like, yeah, I've known him since we were 10. Anyway, next up, we've got our old friend Scott Haskins sending in some beauties here. He recently went to NAMM, like the one of the last things you could do earlier this year.
Wow.
Met up with Glenn Hughes and got this great autographed picture of Glenn just rocking out on that beautiful Rickenbacker bass now that's a souvenir I would like. No autograph even necessary. Just that beautiful Rickenbacker.
That is a great shot of him.
That's
a great shot of him too.
Great shot of it must be like almost an ad because it's got the orange amps logo. He's just rocking out on that Rickenbacker. And
then the classic Glenn Hughes logo, which I love, his Deep Purple Tour logo.
It's awesome.
I think that's one of my favorite logos of his.
So Scott says, I may have shared these pics. Well, not these pics. I just took them, and 2 of them are a pic, but one the same. But I saw your post, so I thought I would send them over. All from the night in Denver. Oh, that's a different one. So I'm sorry. This is the Glenn Hughes one. That's Scott with Steve Morse, obviously.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Another great one. Then we've got this. So we've got the after show guest badge from when he went to see them in Denver on August 26th, 1998. He sat next to Steve's cousin at the show and almost met him, but he did meet Roger.
Wow.
Roger, where are the feet? So he says that, and then there's a pick, the Deep Purple pick. Oops, going back there. That he got from that show as well. So some cool stuff. And I believe that was the show, if I'm reading his notes correctly, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but the show where he suggested that Deep Purple play Fools. Remember, he's like,
right.
I really like that song Fools. And then in the next tour they were playing Fools. So
That's awesome.
He's like, I'm not saying I'm not saying that I put that in there, but they did start playing it after that. And he also mentions that Roger didn't really know right away what song Fools was. And that's one of my favorite
story.
That might be my favorite off that album. So really cool. Steve Hunt on Facebook, and Steve Hunt is great because he sends stuff via many different channels. So Steve Hunt he says, hey guys, here's my ticket. Actually, let me go through these in the right order here. So first off, we've got from Steve Hunt, this is a show schedule from Rainbow when he went to go see Rainbow. And this would have been in 1997. This was handed to me by Doogie White as the band were returning for the encores. I was right up front by Blackmore for this show. In fact, Blackmore kept handing me beers all night. Signatures are RB top left, Doogie White top right, Paul Morris center, Greg Smith bottom left, Candace Knight bottom right. Only the drummer John Maselli didn't sign it. And then it says the opener. The opener band name was Brat Prince. That must have been who opened when you went to see Rainbow during this tour. Remember?
I don't.
I was gonna say,
don't remember.
What do you remember about Brat Prince's set, John?
Knowing me, I probably skipped it, and I'm like, let's not go in until Rainbow is on.
And then it was so loud you could barely take it.
Yeah.
Did we talk about it on the show, or did I tell you that somebody had? Well, maybe it's part of this. But somebody wrote in and said they were at that. Oh, I think it was I might have been Rich on Facebook, who said that
Yeah.
he was at that same show that you were at,
I don't think
the Rainbow
no, I
Show.
don't think you
Oh,
told
I
me
didn't
that.
tell you.
No.
I think it was Rich, and he said I can confirm that John was 100% correct. It was like ear bleedingly loud, like so loud. He said it was absolutely horrendous. But he was
Yeah.
at that same show that you were at.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
I
you've
love
got
stories like
confirmation
that.
from a third party that that show was too damn loud.
I was not lying. I was not exaggerating.
So Steve Hunt's got
Yeah,
this, and then he's got a couple of signatures from JLT, one on the
that's
cover
cool.
of Straight Between the Eyes, and another one on says, what is it? I don't know if it's the back of a single. Oh, I think you must say it here. Got these signed by JLT after a solo show around 2006. Oh, and Graham Bonnet signed. He has a Graham Bonnet signature as well, which is right here. There's a rainbow down to earth advertisement.
Nice.
It looks like from a magazine. He signed that after an Alcatraz gig in 2012. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Adrian Hernandez on Facebook says he sends in this little artifact and says, "Hey guys, here's my ticket for when I went to see Ian Gillan's solo tour for his Gillan's In tour back in 2006. He was in town in Phoenix, Scottsdale to be exact, and it was a small venue in which I was up front. Ian was nice enough to stick around after the show and shake hands. He shook my hand and even autographed my ticket. Here it is in a frame. It was an awesome experience."
Wow, that's kind of like the ticket and that font and everything brings back memories. You don't see that anymore.
Memories that we might need to wait till 2022 to relive.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even know. I haven't like had a paper ticket in like I don't know how long. You know, everything's just hold my phone up and they scan the QR code or whatever.
Yeah, yep, that's true.
You know?
Even though that ticket was only from 2006, it has changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it worries you because you think, Gillan just turned 20. I'm 20, just turned 75, and if they're saying that we're not going to have live shows at all next year now, is what they've been saying. 2022 is the next. He's going to be 77. Like, will Deep Purple be able to tour again in 2 years?
Will they want to tour again in 2 years?
I mean, given the fact that they're still doing it now, I would assume they would, but
But I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, it's like I just find it hard to believe. I mean, I'm just gonna have to kind of default to, my dad is like 3 years younger than Ian Gillan, and I can't picture him like, I mean, he's just like he finishes like, vacuuming the pool and he's like tired.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I'm done. I'm going to read the paper. And then I turn, he's in his chair like,
oh yeah, out cold.
like passed out with like, his hat over his face. It's like, so right away you got to give like Ian Gillan or anybody else around that age from that era, just like, we've said it before, you got to give them huge credit. But I mean, in like even a year or 2 years from now when they're like late 70s, it's just like, what a schedule to keep up, man. And it's like, and you know what, even to like for the show that we saw, for them to do like, let's face it, like deep cuts like Bloodsucker.
Oh yeah,
I think is a deep cut. I mean, for them to do that and not just to fall back on like, here's like 40 minutes of the hits. Bye. It's like they did some cool stuff. I mean, they're still, that's what really makes them impressive. So there you go.
Yep. Next up, we have, who is this? Stuart Smith on Twitter sends this picture, which is a shot, I believe, from the interior of the illustrated Deep Purple biography, the one by Chris Charlesworth, which I recently got. It's really nice. So it's got that little timeline. It says March 1970 on the left, goes through some like different dates, and it's signed by John Lord, Roger Glover, Ian Gillan, Eddie and Paice. Right? Yeah, I think it's just Richie that's missing.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's a really great picture. That's going to be an amazing looking book.
It's a beautiful book, and I was fortunate enough that I had the York Planer was on the scene and was found one and sent me the link, and I snatched it up right away. It's out of print, but you can, every so often they'll pop up on eBay if you want one. They're not, it wasn't hugely expensive. How much did I pay for this thing? I don't even know. $19.
Wow.
I think I got a really good deal, though. I've seen it much more expensive than that. Yeah, it says, I have Glenn's signature in the same book, signed at Bradford Rios on his first gigs with half of Europe as his band. Gillan's signature was from Nottingham. I have a photo with him. John, Ian, and Roger signed the book in Newcastle after a City Hall gig. I think John's final tour. So, beautiful. And then, here's the one with Glenn Hughes, the famous picture of the Mark IV picture with Tommy with his eyes closed and Ian Paice in the leather vest. Beautiful. We also have user man in Florida on Instagram. I'm sorry, Unser man in Florida. So sorry, Unser man. Shares this one. This is says, I was in Nuremberg, Germany at one of the reunion concerts. Look at the crowd. Greetings, Lutz from Berlin. So this is the ticket stub, and then that's the crowd.
Wow,
quite a crowd. And
for those who can't see, it's a big crowd.
The best way to describe this is a very large crowd.
Yeah.
I'll put a link in the show notes to a video, because I don't know if I looked it up or he had sent it along with it, but a video on YouTube of the actual show. So it's from 1985. We're in the middle of their Perfect Strangers tour. Pretty nice. All right. Next up, we got Jim Masa, our old friend and perhaps still #1 YouTube follower. Nate and John. It's 1982 or so. I remember hearing the news that the Mark II lineup was reforming, that an album was in the works. I was super excited as I saw them twice back in the 70s, Mark II, and also saw Mark III and Mark IV. At the time, I was living in New Hampshire, but not able to steal away to Stowe, Vermont in hopes of seeing them. Anyway, Perfect Strangers was released, and I was really happy. Thought it was an excellent album. Still my favorite of the Reformation years. Then I heard of the upcoming tour. Got tickets to see them at the Worcester Centrum in Mass. I mentioned this as you guys are from Rhode Island and would know where that is. On the drive down, I was wondering what song they would open the show with. I figured it would be Highway Star, and they did. It was a blistering kick-ass version. I knew it was going to be a super concert. So he goes on and says, next, they played Strange Kind of Woman. They did the bit from Jesus Christ Superstar, which they're still doing, which is awesome. They played Perfect Strangers, Child in Time, Beethoven with John taking his solo spots. The lights went up. I stayed in my seat absorbing what I had just heard, namely the best band ever. I finally left the Centrum. I'm walking to my vehicle when I see a purple limo with dark windows leave. Obviously, the lads being driven back to their hotel or something. I waved and gave 2 thumbs up. That was 1985. Then he also talks about how he saw him on the House of Blue Light tour. And he talks often about how, he's way up there in Alaska and hasn't been able to see a live show in years because he's working up there, and not a lot of bands tour up in Alaska these days. And here's the House of Blue Light tour book there, World Tour 1987. And picture from the book. Look at that. Gotta love, look at that.
I gotta say, that's Richie with the green jacket and no shirt on, and John Lord with the white shirt and the white rimmed sunglasses,
and the Adidas t-shirt.
I don't know.
Underneath.
That's my favorite.
Ian Gillan's wearing a t-shirt with his own face on it. It looks like
Ian Gillan wearing a deep purple shirt. and then how can you?
I don't even know how to describe what that jacket is. He's got the fedora with the little maybe it's a snake skin thing around it. But John what Lord is that jacket? It's silverish, or it's a mirror reflective material.
Yeah, Roger Glover is really glitzy in this one. He's wearing your aunt's blouse from the 80s.
Yeah, it's that she wore for the Christmas party.
Yeah, that's just that looks like just Photoshop like the Golden Girl's face in that, and that's
I think Blanche wore that in an episode.
like Blanche Glover.
He's gonna go sit on the lanai.
Actually, if everybody except maybe Ian Gillan, you could like Photoshop the Golden Girls into this.
John Lord looks like he's picking up Dorothy for a date.
Oh, that's too good.
Yeah, but like, it's hilarious that Ian Gillan's wearing a deep purple t-shirt, and then Ian Paice looks completely uninterested. He's got this in his sideburns phase. He's wearing like a leather. It's not even a jacket. It's like a leather shirt. Looks very uncomfortable.
You know, this is also like the second like a book that we've seen. Like the first one was that Deep Purple book from the, what was it, 1980, with all the signatures on it. The one that you have.
Which one?
You know, the one that you had a few slides back.
The 1970, the page from 1970.
Yeah, the page from 1970. Yep. Was that a book written in? What was that book from?
Yeah, it might be around 1980.
Didn't you told me like not today? But
yeah.
You told me the last time you talked about
yeah.
It came out in 1980, right?
Yes, because I believe it was after the band. Yeah, because it was before they got back together. Before
the reunion, but after they broke up.
83, it says here.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, like that book and then this tour book. If I feel like Ian Gillan is getting like the shit end of the stick here because his face keeps getting like right there on like the binding. So it's just like like that, because I noticed that in that book and this one, it's like the other like two guys each are like on one side, and then his face is like right in the crease of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of sucks because it's like, you know, they're like great pictures of him, but then it's like his face gets all messed up because of the placement, you know. But I don't know. I think that's actually like one of the coolest pictures of them. That's it's
awesome.
That is probably like the most like glam metal that Deep Purple probably would have ever gotten.
Oh yeah.
If you would call it that. Like that's like the most 80s Deep Purple.
You know, it makes you wonder, were they trying to like have this like level of fashion? Was this something that like management wanted them to do? Because it seems like the earlier Mark IV photo shoot that we showed had the same issue where it's like, you know, Ian Paice in the leather vest, and Ian Paice just looks like, I don't want to be wearing this.
I'm not sure, because it kind of looks like,
but in previous incarnations, like it doesn't ever look like they're like trying to play it up, and it just looks like this is what we do, this is what we wear.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you look at like their earliest pictures, you know, it's like there's one of the photo shoots I really love, and I think you'll know which one. I think it's one of their first photo shoots in the 70s where like Roger Glover is really close to the camera and he's wearing like these big sunglasses. He almost looks like the Fly, you know?
Yeah.
And like all the stuff that they wore, and even up to the Tommy Bolin era, was just very like, it was of the time. It was very like, I guess, fashionable for like rockers in the 70s. But I mean, it was also really basic and like almost like street clothes, but you could tell it was, you know, stage costumes, or they were trying to establish like a stage presence, or, you know, for their band, or like a look for the band. I feel like this is kind of the same thing, because if you look at John Lord, I feel like that's just John Lord in 1986.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like, yeah, I'm still the same as I always was, except fashions have changed. So now I'm going to have my sunglasses match my shirt. You know, where Roger Glover is just like, you know, I saw like this episode of the Golden Girls. So I'm going to pick up this cool jacket.
Was the Golden Girls on during this time?
Yeah.
It must
yeah, they were. I think the first season was 85.
Really? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You were on it. 1985. Yeah. So
and then, you know, and then Richie is probably like the most played down he's ever looked, because he's not wearing that pilgrim hat, and, you know, like, you know, his wig looks nice and looks natural.
It does look natural. That jacket, it does not look comfortable to be wearing that like leather jacket with no shirt on underneath. Like, oh, it makes me squirm just thinking about it.
And then Ian Gillan just looks in this phase like he had an afro.
he looks like he doesn't give a shit. Like he's like, okay, I got this guy to my left that's, you know, in the Golden Girls bus. I got this guy to my right that's, you know, in the tracksuit and the glasses. I'm wearing a deep purple t-shirt and I'm gonna cross my arms and be kind of grumpy about this.
I'm gonna call it a day.
Let's move on.
Oh, but that's a cool picture.
That is a great picture. Great picture. Okay, so Jan Puska on Twitter is the next up. Where are you, Jan? Here we go. Sends in this beauty, which you said you might have a similar one, which is this Battle Rages On tour shirt.
You know what? I can't remember. I feel like I had one, but it wasn't black. It might have been the color, like, because the color of the album was like this kind of like beige color, right?
Yeah. Like
so I feel like I feel like I had the t-shirt, but it was not a black one. It was like that beige or maybe even a white, but it had that logo on it. And I don't know, it's probably still around somewhere.
Jan says this shirt is from Helsinki in '93. That's a nice one. Underappreciated and short-lived logo for the band, that Deep Purple, how Deep Purple's written there. They bring back like the Perfect Strangers logo that the dragon's kind of coming out of, but you've got that deep purple at the top. You never really saw that one again.
Yeah, and I don't really love that logo, to be honest. No, I mean, you know me, I love the classic logo or whatever, like, or what was it, around Stormbringer that they kind of established that.
Yeah,
because we saw throughout the early albums, they never really had a logo. So.
Yeah, the Stormbringer one is probably
the most iconic, I think.
Even though they used it only for that album, really, and then they just kept it shelved for about 20 years before they brought it out again.
Yeah.
And we've got Frank Teelgaard Mortensen, our friendly patron, sending in this, and you know I'm gonna like some of this stuff. So we've got first up. This is Joe Lynn Turner. Don't know why I took a red pen to the concert. Joe was standing in the corner of the backstage and looking kind of mad. I went over to him, and his first response was, "Wow, someone who knows me. All the other ones are talking to Glenn." It was a Hughes. It was a Hughes and Turner project concert.
I would have gone to both of them. Are you kidding me?
So I guess he was grumpy because Glenn was getting most of the attention at that signing or afterwards. And then I mean, I can't imagine no one else knew him, like they're coming to the show, but at any rate, but he also got this, which really is amazing, which is autographed Play Me Out record. And wow, that's a beauty right there. Original Play Me Out. Sign says what does it say?
Nice. It's like a gold pen.
It says "Yo" from Glenn Hughes. So, or maybe, what is this?
No, it's I think it says to Frank.
To Frank. Okay.
Yo from Glenn Hughes.
Yo.
Why would he say that?
It seemed like a weird thing. That's why I was confused. To Frank makes a lot more sense.
Well, yo from Glenn Hughes.
And Frank, I want to know something about that violin bass you got in the background. That's a beauty right there. Very, very nice. So, man, I would love an autographed copy of Play Me Out.
Well, maybe if Glenn ever tours again, we go see him.
I was just like, Glenn, if I send you a self-addressed box with Play Me Out in it, all you have to do is open it up, write your thing, and just send it right back to me. Would you do that?
I don't know. You know, he might, if you ask him nicely.
But Glenn, you did say you loved me on Twitter.
He seems like a cool guy.
I'll just send him with a printed out copy of the tweet where he says, "I love you."
Remember? Now you can do me a favor.
Yeah, exactly. Now what you gonna do for me, Glenn?
You told me you love me.
Arthur Smith on Twitter. So Art sent us a bunch of stuff both on Twitter and via email. And Art's great. He's active on Twitter, Instagram, and sends us stuff in email. So what a great guy. So he says, I've kept this for years. I've kept this for years for no known reason. Also, I have a couple of fanzines from that era of interest. Additionally, I have many programs and tickets, if that's the sort of thing you're interested in. I've kept this for years. I think I just posted the same thing twice. And is this the one? Yeah. So it's this, which is, the single of Can't Let You Go, the rainbow single, and it's like shaped like a guitar, which is
That's
really
neat.
cool. You can see there, it's Can't Let You Go. It says, this side all night long, other side Can't Let You Go. And then if you go to the other side, it just says Rainbow Can't Let You Go. And it's got like a big Fender Strat going, like that classic, like cream colored Strat that Richie often plays. It's like a clear vinyl, really cool. And then on top of that, Art sent some other really interesting pieces. So this is, he says, thought I'd stop cluttering up Twitter and send an email. The Nebworth Festival program, he sent all of my Rainbow tickets. So this is it's the Rainbow official fan club membership card holder. It says Roger, Joe, Don, Bobby, and then in the middle is Richie. This is when you open it up. He's got his name. Hope it's okay that I show his address. Hopefully he doesn't still live there. He sent it in, so hopefully it's okay. And it says fan club member number 3173 and valid from 9/2/81 to 8/2/82. Wait, it's only valid for 11 months?
That's weird.
Renew after 11 months?
Oh, Richie.
It looks like there's like a cool rainbow back patch there. It's like the rising fist holding a rainbow.
That is something that I would have put on my jacket, my jean jacket.
Oh, for sure.
Heck yeah.
Then he's got all these different ticket stubs from going to see Rainbow. This great Deep Purple in concert. And this is from the concerto in 99. Really nice.
Yeah, it is.
There's his ticket stub from going to see the concerto. He says, where does he say it? I went to the second night announced of the concerto, which I think was the day before the one that was filmed. Only time I ever saw Dio sing live, to be honest. Huge voice. And then here's this Battle Rages On ticket. The Battle Rages On arrived in Birmingham in November 93. I can't recall whether I knew Richie was leaving, but the onstage stuff is all captured on the video that came out. The program is cobbled together of pictures from Perfect Strangers era. I was high above the stage on Richie's side, so could see backstage. Candace was around and all sorts of weird things were going on that I can't recall in detail. He would wander off stage when bored. Not a great gig, but memorable for other reasons. And I think that's the show that he was at that, he throws water on the cameraman and he comes in, he only plays like half of Highway Star and like all the band is out there just like flapping in the wind. So that would have been one of his last shows with the band. So pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. I got a few others here. Mike Healy via email. This is a really interesting one. Mike Healy's been following us since day one. He's tends to be more. He was very into the whatchamacallit, the Mark I stuff. Really into that early stuff. So he had a lot of really great insight into it. So Mike Healy shares this picture, which looks kind of innocuous. Here's the story. Here's a funny one. Way back in 4th grade for me in the fall of 1985, I won a Deep Purple prize at some sort of game booth. I can't remember what the game was, but I won and was told to pick a prize. I remember that the walls of the booth were covered with these little cardboard frames that had held small glassy replicas of popular albums of the day. The only one that really stood out for me was the one for Perfect Strangers, so I chose that one and held on to it. And it's still on the wall of my house all these years later. The small glass replica is about 5.5 inches square with the album cover graphics printed on the underside. A couple of years ago, I took it down to dust off the frame and clean off the glass on the inside. I slid the glass cover out onto my hand and something funny hit me. I thought, geez, if I didn't know any better, I would swear that this is something you'd see at a party where people are passing it around with a few lines of Coke on it. Then I thought, wait a damn minute. Is that what this was all along? And I had no idea. There were these things which were popular in the late 70s. I remember seeing a picture of promotional gimmick that Polydor made for a Pat Travers album, which was a Coke mirror that looked like a dollar bill with this image in the middle. And some little trough lines cut into the glass for easy dispensation. Wow, times were different then, weren't they? Regardless of it being a suspected piece of drug-intended paraphernalia, I still look at it fondly on the wall.
Wow. That is, it's a pretty neat story.
Yeah, Perfect Strangers Coke dispenser.
Yeah,
Great.
I got my...
And probably not official.
The unofficial Perfect Strangers Coke mirror. That's great.
All right, so the next one up. This is going to be a hard one to beat, to be honest with you. This one comes to us from Rich Shaler on Facebook, our without question most active Facebook user. Thank you, Rich. And he always gives me a hard time because he says, you guys say that there's nobody on Facebook. What about me? I was like, well, we love you, Rich. You're always giving us great stuff, so we really appreciate it. There's quite a few people that do interact via Facebook. It's just our smallest network, Rich. You're the big fish in the little pond for us, and we appreciate it. But Rich has a ton of great stories. He's got he's always had great feedback from the show since the very beginning, and we really appreciate it. But this is a tough one to beat. So I'm going to show you this photo here and read to you his story. He had sent this to me a while back, and it was just like, wow, mind-blowing kind of thing. And then I didn't think of putting it in the show because it's fairly personal. So but he sent it to me like kind of right under the wire there as we were getting submissions, and said, you know what, I'm thinking about it. I do want you to share this on the show. So really appreciate it, because this is a story that's tough to beat. So here is the picture. I think you'll recognize the gentleman on the right. For those of you listening audio, it's Roger Glover. And there is a young girl giving him a kiss on the cheek and holding a photo of Roger Glover kissing a photo of a baby. So the story is, coming straight from Rich, right after my daughter was born, I was backstage doing the proud dad thing and showed him a picture of the newly minted Shaler. He looked at me and said, "What do you want me to do? Kiss the baby?" So I doubled down and said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, I do." So he did. And then they took a picture of him kissing the picture of the baby. And then he says 13 years later, she returned the favor at her first Deep Purple show. So,
wow, that's
how
cool.
How cool is that? You can have all the autographed vinyl in the world that you want. Nothing's going to top that. Actually, and he's autographed the original photo too. So,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty hard to beat that story. It's a really cool picture, and just kind of shows the kind of guy that Roger Glover is, which is, we talk about other people in the band, and we've said it about John Lord, but same thing with Roger. I've never heard anybody be like, that Roger Glover, what a jerk. I mean, everyone seems to love Roger Glover, and you can see why. So, and then this wouldn't be an episode. It's funny. This always ends up, I usually always just put these in the order that they were received. I put them just in chronological order. Whoever I see first, I just start cutting and pasting them, throwing them into a document, so that by the time we're ready to record, I've got it. And who always comes in last? It carries up the anchor of the show.
Ooh.
Our friend, our one of our oldest friends from the New England area.
Is it our friend Peter Gardeau?
Of course. He always comes in like last, right before the episode's about to be aired, which in this case that was a few weeks ago anyway, but he comes in with email with some stuff of his own. I think you'll like this. So put that in. So he says, Nate, this is kind of lame, but the best memorabilia I have. Back on Tuesday, May 15th, 2007, Heaven and Hell were playing at the Mohegan Sun Arena. Those of us that were going had all seen Black Sabbath at the Bushnell in Hartford on the Dehumanizer tour in 1992. Two of the guys saw Sabbath and BOC on the Black and Blue tour in 1981. Between the Dehumanizer tour and 2007, me and my buddy Jim saw Dio at the Webster Theater in Hartford after an afternoon gig at the Amphitheater in Hartford of Pat Travers, Foghat, BOC, and Steppenwolf. One of the best rock and roll days ever. So I was awaiting the boys to show up at my house. I pulled out my Holy Diver LP and cranked it up, only to find out that I had stored it wrong and the LP was totally warped and unplayable. I was so bummed and not happy with myself, so I warmed up the oven and made a chip bowl out of my ruined LP. So that's a chip bowl. That is his Holy Diver LP.
You know, that's really interesting because that is actually done as art. I've seen it at other places, and I actually have bought a couple of them which made Kiss albums, and I have them around this room.
He did a great job.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, oh, where'd he pick that up? I didn't realize that he made it, which is like even cooler.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
He says, a few years later, I got another LP trip bowl from one of my sisters, Dionne Warwick. Any DP connections with her? I'm sure there are.
If we dig deep enough, you know, it'd be like John Lord played on one of her earliest songs.
Could be. By the way, H&H was totally awesome that evening. So he's got this picture. That's the underside of the Dio chip bowl.
Chip bowl.
And there's his Dionne Warwick. His Dionne Warwick chip bowl.
Oh my God! It looks like a stingray.
I like his old-timey telephone back there. It's like a rotary phone.
I wouldn't expect any less from him.
It's probably still got the Zaire price sticker on it. Zaire, $12.99. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I kind of want a chip bowl like that now. Probably half my records I could do that with because they're all in rough shape.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Some great submissions from our listeners.
Yeah.
I think I covered everything. Oh, one more thing, actually. Which I should have mentioned. Art Smith had sent this, which is a PDF scan of... let me see if I can just get this PDF sized up right. So this is a PDF scan of the Rainbow Official Fan Club newsletter or what have you. A famous picture of the band with all of them standing in jackets in front of some whatever. But it's, it's very, kind of DIY looking. But it's got, a picture of Richie. It's got Dear Fans.
It looks like a fanzine.
Yeah, it's like a total. It's got some some pictures, different colored pages. Picture of the drum set, picture of Roger Glover in in a cool car. But yeah, it's an interesting little PDF, and I'm glad to have this in part of my collection. There's a Richie Blackmore comic.
Never thought I'd see that.
Yeah, it's Richie Blackmore lying back playing a guitar. What does it say?
Zoom in.
I'm trying to. I can't figure out how to do it.
If you can. No.
Oh, here we go. It says, personally, I speak softly and carry a big stack. There you go. And then he's holding a cello, and it says, any ideas? And the cello seems to be...
upset.
Upset. Yeah, exactly.
Does it say... Oh, wait. What does it say? More?
Yeah, it seems like it's saying more.
I
might have missed that joke.
Maybe.
Got some nice pictures, behind the scene pictures. List of upcoming tour dates and things like that. Question and answer time. What was the first band Richie played with? The first band Richie played with was called Peter J. and the Jaywalkers. He joined them when he was 16. Does Roger have a favorite singer or band? Roger has a number of favorite singers. For instance, he likes Lowell George, Dylan. Okay, that's it. He also has a great admiration for people who feel the music they are playing, like the late John Lennon and Edith Piaf. Two people who aren't usually mentioned in the same sentence. His favorite
Like
bands
never.
are Led Zeppelin, Early Little Feat, Steely Dan. Roger's favorite single is Good Golly Miss Molly. Pretty interesting. I didn't know Roger was a big Steely Dan fan.
Or Edith Piaf.
He loves Edith Piaf.
I mean, who doesn't?
This is a really great. I'm really glad to have a copy of this, a PDF of this, because it's a really interesting. Interesting little web or little fanzine, like you said. So yeah, kind of like you said, a little bit of a shorter episode than normal, but some really interesting stuff sent in by you guys, the fans, and we'll be back at it next week with another album review coming to you, and maybe even a special guest host. We'll see.
Oh boy,
anything could happen. All right. Anything else to close it up, or are we done here?
Yeah, my work is done.
My work is done.
No, that was I have to say that was some really cool stuff. I always enjoy seeing that kind of stuff. You know what really struck me about that though is like there seemed to be a lot of stuff from the Perfect Strangers or the 80s era, or Mark II. Nothing from Mark I.
No, well, I'm sure that stuff is in much shorter supply too.
Yeah, but it would have been
that would
really
be something a Rod Evans autographed thing.
Wow, yeah, that would be. Yeah, I mean, even like Captain Beyond album, you know, but I know that the original lineup didn't last that long, but it's just like, yeah, I guess it would have been harder because they didn't have a lot of things like, you know, they did later on, like the promo singles, the fanzines, like all that, you know, like the tour jackets and stuff. I mean, they wouldn't have had that in the first 18 months. So, I mean, it must have been really hard to have gotten anything cool aside from maybe a copy of the album. And even then, you know, to have them sign it, like, you know, you probably didn't have a ton of people running up to them being like, oh, sign this, when they weren't really anybody to people yet. But I like to think that even retroactively, like, you know, maybe when like Rod and Nick Simper were still active in the 70s, like people would have like, you know, tried to seek them out and like, you know, sign some albums, and it would have been cool to see some Mark I stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's gotta be.
I feel like it's a lot more rare.
I'm looking on eBay. I'm not seeing anything signed by Rod Evans.
That's definitely the holy grail.
If you type in Rod Evans autograph, it says no exact match is found, and then shows you a bunch of people named Evans, like baseball cards that are signed. Donald Evans, authentic vintage Madge Evans autograph, pennies from heaven.
Madge Evans.
Madge Evans.
Oh well, thanks Google. Thanks for nothing.
There's some Danish flapper, but nothing. Original autograph of Gene Evans. Like that's how rare it is. But wow, yeah, if you've got any leads, I would even just like to see a picture of Rod Evans' signature on anything. But there's got to be like a Captain Beyond. Let's see, Captain
or a
Beyond.
Picture of like a fan with Rod Evans or something like that. You know, like.
Man, the man has faded into obscurity like no one else.
Yeah, but even prior to that, you know, you figure there has to be something out there somewhere.
Well, right, you would have figured up until, you know, and even up until the mid 70s, the guy had to have been signing autographs. These things have to be out there.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I guess like most of the hardcore Purple fans would have the stuff that we saw today.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, like, you know, a couple of Mark I things would have been really impressive to see if anybody had them.
Mm-hmm. I know I saw recently somebody had posted on maybe on one of the Facebook groups of something Nick Simper had signed, but there was like, to prove its authenticity, there was a picture of Nick Simper actually signing it.
Oh wow. Can't get more authentic than that.
And I think it was something that had already been signed by other members, and he was just putting like his signature on it, but it might have been one of the early albums or something. But anyway, there you have it. Some great keep on sending those stories and pictures and all sorts of stuff, because we love to see it. It's great. Makes for some really great conversation on social media, and Yeah. What's important to you about Deep Purple? Let us know. All right, John. With that, I will talk to you once again next week.
All right. Bye.
Later.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also give us a rating on iTunes to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.